Hello everyone, I'm Brian, and today we're going to continue on with the Neuroscientist David Eagleman with Sadhguru. Alright, so I think I paused it at the right spot, and let's go ahead and get started.
Now, as a physical body, you're unable to not be influenced by
It's weird,
by
double
the
negative.
clothing of your culture, by...
No, this is a statement, this is not a compulsive thing.
But you don't dress as somebody who's Chinese or an Eskimo or something.
When I'm in the North Pole, I will, I think.
So you can't help... So from my perspective, there's this issue of brain plasticity, which is to say that we absorb what's coming in. And I think it's exactly consistent with your description about who you are in the end is an accumulation of all these perceptions. There's also the case that we come to the table with some pre-programming in our DNA, which I think is consistent with what you're talking about, is the memory of all of your ancestors leading up to this point. But because we are creatures that go around and vacuum in our cultures, and we speak this particular language, and we are males, and we dress in certain ways, it's hard to avoid that. Now, I'm guessing you're going to say, but you don't identify with it. Is that right?
See, what is a social requirement is one thing. I just saw you going into the women's room.
And you too, by the way.
Because that was the only bathroom available.
Yes.
So, by social norm, you do certain things. Because in the room that we were sitting, there was only women's room. I don't know why they marked it like that.
I don't know.
So you went in, I went in, every other male went in, only the female did not go.
It basically became some men's bathroom.
So now what you do for the norm that exists so that you don't collide into situations is one thing. What you identify with is another thing. So the moment you identify with anything for that matter, starting from your body to everything else, what is your body is the limited body, what you call as family is a larger body, what you call as community is a much bigger body, what you call as a nation is a much bigger body, what you call as humanity is a much bigger body. This is how human identities go. People think it's better to be identified with a nation than to be with an individual when there is a war or when there's some situation.
Sorry, little quick note. Whenever it said, when there's a war, you identify with your nation as opposed to the bigger body. Yeah, I guess again, I watch videos on YouTube too. I watch a historian react to Civil War from America, and people identify with their state more than the country. And I think that may still be somewhat true today too.
People think it's better to be identified with the whole humanity, but any identity limits you.
Sorry, and I also want to add that the reason why being is because you can identify more with your neighbors than with someone that's, say, the next block over, and even the next block over that one, and then the next city over. The further and further you are from you, the less and less you can identify with that person because it's just so difficult to communicate.
It takes away the fundamental possibility of what this life is. Identity is required for survival process to manage day-to-day situations, but it is not an exploratory process. Because the intention of science is to know. See, technology is a fallout. Unfortunately, in this world, nobody would fund science if it did not spin technology, which is a very unfortunate thing. Because human intelligence wants to know, it need not be useful. It simply wants to know. So technology is useful, and what is useful today, tomorrow you may realize is very destructive. It may take away our life. So technology has to be judiciously looked at, what to apply, what we should not apply. But that judiciousness is gone because everything is commercialized and it's on, full force. Everything that we do after 50 years, we come back and say we did the wrong thing, now we're doing the right thing, and again after 25 years we come back and say then we did the wrong thing, now we're doing the right thing. Every stage of life we seem to know it perfectly well, but after some time looking back, we know we did not know nothing, we missed too many pieces. So technology is something that we have to judiciously do. Science must happen rampantly. Mysticism must happen rampantly because this is simply exploratory. This is not about seeing how to make it useful. But today, modern science has become a slave of technology. If you don't make it useful, nobody's going to fund you anymore. If you simply say, I want to know, nobody's interested in this.
That's true.
How can it be turned into an enterprise?
Well, I mean, the problem with that is the sheer fact that it costs money to know things. It really does. School is not free. I mean, what your parents learned was not free. Even our ancestors in the past who was living off the land, the knowledge they obtained was not free. Nothing in this life is free. In the past, a few of our ancestors had to die to learn that you don't go messing with poisonous snakes. That's knowledge that was paid the price by life. Everything I think in life has a cost. So going to school has a cost. You pay your taxes or whatever it may be, or you pay the school directly. The knowledge that's passed down from your parents, they paid for it already and pass it on to you, so you don't have to pay for that knowledge. But every knowledge that we have obtained always has a price. And if the knowledge we obtain, how do I say this, is not useful, I don't know how to attain this, but anyways, the knowledge we obtain has to be of use to us. Because if it's not of use to us, it's useless. And knowledge that we generally obtain that's useful generally can be monetized. And the fact that, we live in a world where it's nice that you can research stuff, again, learning stuff costs money, costs something. And if you cannot recuperate the loss of money, you're going to go out of business. There'll be no more research being done, and it kind of sucks, but it's just the harsh truth of life. You have to pay to learn stuff, and if you cannot pay it anymore, you can't learn it anymore. So the reason why he's talking about enterprising it is because if you can research something to sell it, then you can make more money to research more things. Because once you're out of money, that's it. It's over with.
That's all they're interested in. This is a wrong way to approach science.
That's all they're interested in, yes, because again, in order to continue to fund this exploratory science, they have to have funding. There's not unlimited money, to be able to get certain things to do experiments on. You have to pay for those things to get to experiment. And if you keep constantly buying, experimenting, and nothing comes off of it, then you just wasted a whole bunch of money.
Because science is a fundamental need within a human being wanting to know. It's the nature of human intelligence. It is not something that somebody made up. It's not a bunch of scientists who made this up. This is a fundamental need within human intelligence wanting to know. It is the nature of a human being. If he sees something new, he wants to know what this is, whether it's a small thing or a big thing. So to continuously sustain that wonder, that sense of wanting to know, is the basis of science and mysticism. It is only the fundamental approach is different in the sense. Science is trying to achieve everything through physical means, by taking physical quantities, going by the physical laws. But physical is like the peel of the fruit, it has no purpose of its own. The peel is useful only as a protective layer to the fruit. Once the fruit is eaten, peel goes to the trash can. See, right now, the fruit is inside, so this body is very important. We have to feed it, we have to decorate it, we have to dress it up, we have to pamper it in so many ways. Tomorrow morning, if the fruit is gone, nobody's interested in this body anymore. Nobody wants to transact with this anymore. Only because there is something else inside, body is such great significance. Once this is gone, what is this? This is just like a fruit peel. People want to get rid of it at the earliest.
I will say I've been watching Human Anatomy. When your body's gone, you can donate to the science so they can teach future surgeons or anatomy, whoever does anatomy anyway, will be able to see certain things. There's a channel out there called, I think, Human Institution of Human Anatomy or something like that, and I watch a few of their stuff. It's very interesting stuff to actually see the human body, the insides of it. Scary, creepy, but fascinating to learn.
At least in America, they dress it up. In India, within 4 hours, you must get rid of the body. That's the rule. Because once it's dead, leave the dead to the dead, you know, somebody said a long time ago. Once, as long as they're alive, you do whatever. Once they're dead, you're done. Because the peel is meaningless without the fruit. Right now,
I will say you can learn a lot from the peel, though. I mean, learning how the human body works to those who are still alive. Again, some people donate their organs to people alive, so even though the fruit is gone, the peel, I'm assuming you're saying the body, still useful. You can still hopefully save the organs to donate to people and to donate your body to science to help better understand the human anatomy.
the fundamental flaw in this approach is, though it's produced phenomenal results in terms of well-being for us, comfort for us, convenience for us, the kind of comfort and convenience we're enjoying, no other generation ever has known on this planet. This is a fruit of science, or technology rather. In spite of that, will it lead to human well-being? That's a question mark.
It can, but it depends how to use
Comfort
it.
and convenience will come. But will well-being come? That's a question mark, because if you look back on the humanity, let's say 100 years ago or 1,000 years ago, how people were and how people are you today, are you more joyful than them? Are you more blissed out than them? So, are you more blissed out than previous generations? It's not true. We are in much more comfort,
Yeah.
but we are not in much more joyful states or pleasant states within ourselves. Or in essence, our well-being or the fundamental quality of our life has not changed, though the physical quality of our life has changed like unimaginable proportions in the last 50 years.
Okay, okay.
So,
I got most of that. There's some parts that are still missing. I wish you could ask them.
we
But
are
it's
trying
hard to form it to a
approach
question.
everything through physical means. If you go through physical means, you will hit that glass wall somewhere. I think, in my perception, I'm not a scientist, I don't know all of it, but in my perception, I think the physicists are near the glass wall. They might not have hit it, they're near.
That's the unknown question, right? We have no guarantee how far we'll get in science. And we may run, by glass wall, I assume you mean we run to a place where we say we can't go further.
Where the present faculties will not be good enough. The
Yeah.
present faculties of 5 senses and a brain will not be good enough.
That we hit a long time ago.
Yeah, I was going to say, instruments that we developed through science and technology actually pushed our ability to study our surroundings a lot better. Our 5 senses is very limited, but with technology, we can push it to where we can see or feel or smell with our 5 senses. I don't know about smell, but yeah, but we can extend our senses a lot further with technology.
So for example, things like quantum physics, you can't understand it, but you can write it down in equations that make predictions accurate out to 14 decimal places. So we think it's pretty good, and we can build new things out of it, that we can see things much smaller and much farther away than we ever could before. We understand the wondrousness and the subtleness of everything around us much better than we did before. But the actual physics, a human can't understand. We just make tools to get where we need to go with it. So we've already hit that point. And certainly it's the case with the human brain, which is made up of almost 100 billion specialized cells with thousands of trillions of connections between them, and every second…
I like the way you're saying it with the passion. Like some people are talking about food or something else.
I'm a brainy instead of a
You
foodie.
feed on the brain.
Yeah. But the reason it's easy to be passionate about it is because it's a system of such unimaginable complexity that it bankrupts the language. We have no way that a human could perceive a system of that complexity, and yet each of us has it. There's this 3-pound organ that we're carrying around, but we've already hit that point a long time ago in science where we realize
Our
we
five
can
senses are
make
no longer
new
enough.
strains of mathematics, we can make computer simulations, but we'll never get it. I'll never get the brain. All I can do is take the the way that you explained the 16 aspects of the mind, you simplified it down to 4. The best I can do is take the thousands of trillions of connections in the brain and make some cartoony model that my impoverished intellect can sort of get a sense of.
They're building a simulator, brain simulator,
Yeah.
Andrew Markram is busy building this simulated brain. All that is fine. We are looking at the physical mechanics of what's happening. The complexity of what's happening is beyond the physical mechanics. See, looking at the physical mechanics of the brain, the neuronal function and the electric… this thing that's happening, the waves that are flowing, whatever things happening, is fantastic because of the complexity of what it is, the sophistication of what it is. It is the gadget, no question. Okay.
Weird to call your brain a gadget.
This human gadget is the gadget on the planet. Of what we have seen, this is the most sophisticated gadget on the planet, there's no question about that. Keeping that aside, but even this brain can be manufactured with something as simple as a piece of a carrot or a bread.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'm saying there is…
Okay, that you can manufacture bread out of a carrot. Like what? How do you turn a carrot into a brain? You eat it. I was thinking completely different. Like I don't know, like you somehow use machine to change a carrot into a brain, but he meant eating it and then feeding your brain.
an intelligence here which can create a brain. Why are you ignoring that intelligence?
I think that's the heart of science, is to try to understand what that is. What I mean by that is, so we have different approaches in science to get there, but studying the genetic code and understanding how the heck with 27,000 genes can you unpack a human being? Because whatever the truth is of what's happening spiritually, if there's a separate you or not, what we know for sure is that you can unpack a human being from these 4 letters of amino acids, and these base pairs that make these proteins, and somehow that all gets unpacked, fueled by bread and carrots and so on.
These kind of questions have always been on human mind. It happened almost 15,000 years ago. Adi Yogi, that means the first yogi, he had 7 disciples. These 7 disciples are full of questions.
This
They
wonder.
Some of them are astronomers, some of them are serious mathematicians, things like this. They have a million questions. After some time, Adi Yogi is bored with their questions because whatever they ask, it's just a product of their intellect. They're not able to ask a question beyond that. So they ask, what is the nature of this, your cosmos? Where does it begin? Where does it end? How big is it? He's just bored. So he says, your cosmos, I can pack it into your mustard seed. The entire cosmos, I can pack it into your mustard seed, he said. Then they were flabbergasted by this. Then they said, what is it made of? If you can pack such a huge cosmos, which we can't even imagine where it begins and where it ends into your mustard seed, what is it made of? He was completely bored, even to utter a word, he simply said like this. 5 elements. Just these 5 elements. The entire universe is a play of these 5 elements. If you master the 5 elements, you have a key to every aspect of creation. If you don't master the 5 elements, if you approach it from outside, as you approach it, it will take on 1 trillion new forms. As you try to study it, it can take on 1 trillion new forms as you're looking at it, because that is what it is capable of. Just 5 things.
I'm trying to think of what he's trying to say here before maybe he answers it a little bit later. I just want to see if I can understand it. So is he saying because of the questions, because you asked one question and he answered it, and because of that one answer, now you have 2 more questions, and he answered both of those. Now each of those 2 questions have 4 questions on top of the 2 questions, so you have 8 questions now. And as he continues to answer each of these questions, there's more and more and more and more questions that develop from every answer he answers. But he says if you learn these 5 things, all your questions will be answered.
5 million things would be difficult. 5, I'm sure you and me can study, isn't? At least I'm capable of 5. You're talking in millions and billions, but I'm 5.
Are you going to tell me what the 5 are?
Huh?
Are you going to tell me what the 5 elements are?
You know, these 5 elements, it's called earth, fire, water, air, space. These are 5 things.
Maybe. I mean, maybe that'll work in the end.
Everything is just within this. Everything that you call as physical creation has substance of some kind. This is earth. And all of it is in movement, that's called air. All of it ascribes to some temperature, that is fire. And in everything there is water, which is the cohesiveness. If there is no water, there is no cohesiveness in anything. And all of it is held together by what we call as akash. Here we're calling it as space. In English language, it doesn't really describe what we are saying, but it's called akash. Maybe a more closer word in English language would be…
Ether.
Ether, etheric space or whatever they're calling it as.
Okay.
So, these are the 5 things, whether an atom or a subatomic particle, everything is…
Oh, and actually, those 5 elements. I remember watching a video where I was asking, "What's the 5th element?" Because I know it was earth, fire, wind, and water, but the 5th element was the question. Everyone was replying space, space, and I was thinking like outer space. But I think he just answered it here, which now makes a lot of sense. The ether. It's there's I think it's something in science which is unexplained. I think dark matter or negative matter or something like that too, which is just it's space. It seems like it's empty, but it's actually I think it's full of. It's been a while since I watched the YouTube videos of this stuff, but there are stuff in space. It's just we can't see it or measure, or I think we can't measure it yet. But it's just a theory out there of what it might be.
Is made of these 5 things. So you don't have to study the trillions of things which are manifestations of these 5. If you understand these 5 things, if you have grasp over these 5 things, then everything becomes accessible. So the fundamental, the most basic process, unfortunately, the word yoga conjures completely wrong images in America. The most fundamental aspect of yoga is called bhuta shuddhi. This means cleansing of the elements so that you can feel them separately in your own system. This very body is 72% water and 12% earth, 6% air, 4% fire, remaining is space. If you take charge of these things, what you need to know, everything that is life is here, because modern physicists are saying, as you sit here, every subatomic particle is in communication with the rest of the cosmos. If it is so, you just have to become alive to it. You just have to become receptive to it. Rather than going around the cosmos and studying, if you sit here, it's reverberating because the nature… I think there is some constructional theory, something coming up in California, I don't know, you must be acquainted with these things.
I blurbed the book actually on the
So
back.
fundamentally what they're saying is, whether it is the smallest thing or the biggest thing, everything, the fundamental design is same. It is only the complexity and sophistication which is improving. Between an amoeba and you, the fundamental design is same. It is much more complex and sophisticated, but essentially life-making design is same. So if it is so, the most fundamental materials which make this life and every other physical aspect of what we see in this creation, if we know the ingredients and how they happen, then you have a key to every aspect of life. But if you try to study the creation itself, as you study, they will multiply into billions and trillions.
It seems it might depend what your goal is. So if you want to create a drug for cancer or build a helicopter, you need to do something with those 5 elements or break the world.
So it's not about exploration, it's about utility. What is the use of life? Let me ask you a question.
I would love to know. I've wondered that question.
Okay, what is the use of life? Was that the question? Let me go back here.
What is the use of life?
What is the use of life? I don't know if he asked that question in terms of what I could understand. Like, what is the use of life? Does he mean what's the purpose of life? That I'm more familiar with, but what's the use of life? As though it's an object that you use. The purpose of life, well, the extreme basic purpose of life, I think, is reproduction. Just to continue your species. That's it. That's all there is in life. Survival is second, well, that might be part of reproduction is survival in a sense, and also, fighting off your enemies or things that are trying to kill you. That is the basic, extreme basic purpose of life. Just reproduction, ensuring your survival of your species. That's it. But a little bit more, I won't say deeper, just a different way of looking at us also is to include, like, you create the purpose of your life. You could just work until you die and make no changes in the world, and if that's your purpose, then that's your purpose. There's nothing wrong with that. If your purpose is to make this world a better place, then that is your purpose in life. If your purpose is to make the world a worse place, then my gosh, man. I don't know what happened to you, but that's your purpose in life. You create your purpose. No one else can. You can take suggestions, but you create your own purpose. So the basic purpose of life is reproduction. I won't say deeper understanding, because it's not deeper. I think that's the deepest understanding, is the fact that we, as a species, the reason why we are where we are today is because we have this drive to survive and to pass on our genes. And then a little bit less deep, I don't know, is basically you create your own purpose.
Let me ask you a question.
I would love to know. I've wondered that question. And I get it that science isn't getting me there. I mean, I've been in science my whole adult life, but I don't know. I get much more towards that question when I read literature, which was my first love before I went to science. So I take the point that science doesn't help me on that front at all.
Science is to understand the physical world. I think that's what limits science, but there is still a lot to know in the physical world, though. A lot of unanswered questions.
What would you say? I've wondered what the point is.
No, when we're looking at everything as, see right now, this is an unfortunate reality which is, doesn't agree with my aesthetics of life. Right now, science has moved from an exploratory process to an exploitative process. If you see an atom, how to use it. If you see a bacteria, how to use it. If you see an elephant, how to use it. If you use a whale, how to use it. Of course, the next thing is if you see a human being, how to use them. This is where it's going. Everything, how to use it. This is not what life is about. You may get to know how to use every damn thing, but still, life won't get any better. If you know how to keep this one, life will get better.
That's true. I mean, again, when you look at a lot of developed nations, and especially at least in America, and I think in maybe even Europe, I'm not saying, oh, well, let me see, Western nations, not developed nations. Western nations. I've heard studies saying that most people people are getting unhappier. Women have become unhappier, I believe, even though they have so much freedom, they can do anything they want, but their genuine happiness is getting lower. Not all females. I think it's the percentage. I think the females in the past were much happier than they are today. But that's not to say that all females are unhappy or to say all females are happy. It's just, I think the number of females that are happy have reduced because there's just so much that they're trying to do that they're just putting too much work on themselves. And I think that's with a lot, and I think that's with a lot of societies today too. You have so much freedom that I think in general the population may just be getting a little bit unhappy as well. I don't know, when you have a sense of purpose in life, when it's meaningful purpose, you derive happiness from that. Absolutely. It doesn't matter what it is. If it's a sense of genuine purpose, you're going to be happy doing it. But if it's just a mundane task, like a job that you don't like and you're going through every day, you're going to be unhappy. Doesn't matter, almost doesn't matter how much money you make, because you see rich people out there who are unhappy. It's so weird to see that rich people are just unhappy. They have money and they're unhappy. It's so weird. And something I think he's saying is the fact, well, I don't know if he said it or not, but money, there's a saying that money cannot buy happiness, but I will say, I'll attach to that, it helps though, you know? So, I don't know where I was going with that, but basically, I think it doesn't matter, like, science has improved our life a lot, but it doesn't make us happy, which is what he was saying.
Believe me. If you just know how to sit here blissed out, life will get better.
I see that point. Let me ask you, I'm curious what you think is reality out there, because I think you and I come from the same perspective, that we're very limited in what we can actually see, and that an animal would see reality differently than you and I might see it differently also. If one of us has synesthesia, and so when we hear music, we see colors, things like that, then we might have very different realities. So what would it be like if you could get beyond the physical trappings?
See, language can go only thus far, whether it's science or literature. It can go only that far. When you speak any language, it must make logical sense. If it does not make
Otherwise
logical
it's gibberish.
sense, people are leaving right now. Yes, because language is deeply enslaved to the fundamental logic which is a product of our intellect. Without it, we could not speak. So now you're asking about something which is not going to be logically correct. So I am not willing to make a fool of myself here, talking about something that's not going to make sense to them right now. But we will talk about it.
Oh, come on.
Different way. This happened. Adiyogi had a family, the first yogi. So, some disciple of his from South India carried a basket of mangoes. Have you tasted the Indian mango?
Yeah,
Indian mango?
I've been to India, yeah.
Okay. So it's during this season right now, unfortunately I'm in America.
Unfortunately, come on.
This time of the year,
Oh,
mango
okay.
is the only religion in the country. Everybody is head to toe mango, okay? So, mangoes drive us crazy. In southern India, we have over 200 varieties of mangoes.
Dang.
So, different days they want to eat different types of mangoes, and they want to cook mango, everything is mango, okay? People have come up with facial creams, mango creams and everything. So somebody carried a basket of mangoes and came all the way to Himalayas to offer it to their guru. But by the time they came, the basket one by one, mangoes going bad, either they threw it away or they ate it up, something happened. By the time they came there, only one mango was left. One beautiful South Indian mango. I'm talking about it like you talk about brain. Believe me, it's sweet, not like the brain. So now Adiyogi has a wife and 2 children, 2 boys. Now one mango is not like an apple, you can't cut it into half and give it to 2 people. It can only be eaten like this, If you cut it, it won't go equal anyway.
Because of the
So
seed.
what to do? Both the boys came running, we want the mango. Each one wants the mango. So they didn't know what to do, then they said, what? They have to set up something, who gets the mango? They said, okay, let's have a little race, whoever wins the race gets the mango. Because these are Adiyogi's children, it's not a 100-meter dash. They said, whoever goes around the world 3 times first, they will get the mango. So the younger boy immediately set off, racing around the world, wanting to make 3 rounds, and he went away.
Go around the world 3 times. Let me see if I can answer that question. Go around the world. Okay, so the answer I thought of whenever he said that, I don't know if it's gonna count, but I'll say it anyway. So basically, I have a feeling the child, the other child, is just gonna sit there and wait 3 days.
The older boy was a little obese. He just sat there. He didn't move. The parents were surprised. Then they thought maybe he's given up on the mango.
It's because the Earth rotates. But the thing is, though, is that technically going around the Earth? You're sitting in one place. You're moving with the Earth.
The young boy wants to get it, he's running, this boy has given up. But this boy sat there for some time, then he got up. He went around his father and mother 3 times and said, "Mango."
Ah!
They said, "What? You didn't even run?" What do you mean?
You are my Earth.
This is about going around the world. He's going around the world. I went around my world. You are my world. I've gone around, I deserve the mango.
Okay.
They couldn't argue with this logic, so they gave him the mango.
Okay, wow,
He
okay.
ate. Then the younger boy came and, things happened. Fireworks. Fireworks happened, he became very furious, all those things, another story. But
Man, if you went around the world, man, that mango, you eaten many different kinds of food on the way. That mango's gonna mean nothing by the time you went around the world, especially by foot.
what I'm saying is, there is a subjective reality and there's an objective
Yes.
reality. When I
Absolutely.
say subjective reality, I'm not talking about just your thought and emotion. Like you're talking about cognitive reality can be different. What is smell for somebody is taste for someone else. What is sweet for somebody is bitter for somebody else. What's light for one person is darkness for another creature. Here I see one creature right behind staring at me. So, this perception is… these 5 senses are tuned for our survival. If survival is what we are seeking, sense organs are fine. But once you're looking at life as an exploration, you want to know life, not just live life, you want to know. When you want to know, 5 senses are no good. They are not sufficient faculties to know. Right now, this brain, I'm not trying to downgrade it, it's a fantastic thing. This brain is nothing without the 5 senses. It is this…
That's absolutely, yes, true. Because the weirdest thing is who we are. I've heard who we are is what the brain, it's what our inputs into our brain and how our brain perceives it, because how we see the world is through our eyes, how we feel the world is through our touch, how we smell the world is through our nose, how we taste the world is through our mouth, and how we hear the world is through our ears. Without any of those, we're missing a part of the input to our brain and how we perceive the world. Without those 5 senses, the brain is just sitting in nothing, in absolute darkness, silence, and senseless, well, smellless. Yeah, smellless, touchless world.
5 agencies which are gathering information and feeding up this brain all the time, both every moment of your wakefulness and sleep, this is happening. If you walk from here to there, if somebody is wearing a strong perfume or something else, you may notice it, otherwise generally you may not notice. But if you walk from here to there, your olfactory cognition is taking in probably 200 different smells if you walk from here to there. It is just that you have not paid enough attention to decipher that, and your other faculties are overriding that. Suppose you did not have eyes, ears, nothing. If you shut them off for some time, you will see suddenly your nostrils become so very sensitive.
So this one I've heard as well is the fact that if anyone who generally loses one of their senses, that energy, either the energy is split up to your other senses, or that your other senses adapt so that those senses become stronger because you're lacking one sense. I think maybe it distributes the power. Like your 5 senses have 20% power, 20% power, 20%, 20%, 20% power. If you lose this one, then it's distributed with 5, additional 5, so 25, 25, 25, 25. So this becomes 5% stronger than what they used to be, because you lack one of those senses. Your brain doesn't have to. Your nerves doesn't have to power it, or the fact that you have to be more aware because you are now lacking one sense.
You can just smell out how many people are there. If you bring your dog here, he almost knows how many people are here. he doesn't know just some human smell. He knows individually distinct smell of each person that is here.
Because they have a better sense of smell.
We also have that because our neurological system is way more sophisticated than that of a dog, but there are other overriding factors which have diminished that. But if you wish, you can develop that to a certain level. So cognitive distinctions are there and cognitive confusion is there as you… what's that word about… smell becomes a color and color becomes something.
Synesthesia.
Okay, whatever.
I
No,
told you asked for it.
it's anesthesia, synesthesia, something is lost, something is mixed up,
Yep.
like a drink. A man who is just out of the bar may feel that way, you know. Everything may become colorful or not colorful depending upon his mood in that day or what he had. So, these things are happening because you can impair these things or enhance these things with a little bit of chemical stimulation or injuries or diseases or… This is essentially a chemical soup.
Yeah.
What kind of a soup is the question? So our whole effort in the yogic system is how to keep it very equanimous and exuberant at the same time. The problem with most people is if they become equanimous, they become death-like. If they become exuberant, they keep flipping all the time.
Like the
To be
camera's happening right now.
equanimous and exuberant means your sense organs and you can function in a certain way. You are vibrantly alive, but you're absolutely equanimous. If this one thing happens, suddenly your sensory perception will not be the limit for you. There are other dimensions of perception which will not come into one's experience unless there is a certain level of striving. For example, 200 years ago, I heard 97% of United States population was illiterate. Today, probably almost 100% literacy in the country. How does this happen? It's the infrastructure of schoolrooms and human infrastructure of teachers and many other things and books and whatever. If this infrastructure was not built, even today we would be in the same condition, isn't it? So similarly, for turning inward, there is no infrastructure. Few individuals may be doing it somewhere, but there is no large-scale infrastructure in the society as to look at life just as life, not as to how it is useful. Life need not be useful. It's a phenomena beyond our use. It is a phenomena to be experienced. We have come here to experience life, not to use life, isn't it so? Hello?
Hello? I love that part. Okay. Well, I would say it would be nice for life to be useful. It's not a mandatory thing for sure. You don't want to be… Again, my opinion here, you don't want to be useless or a burden on anyone. I certainly don't want to be. And whenever I said that, it made me think of, like, it's a terrible thing to think. Like, if I ever become a burden on someone, I also just want to, just… But there are people out there that, who has all their limbs, quadriplegic, I believe. But they're capable of doing a lot, and it's really a really promising thing. It's you having to overcome your limitations is because we're so used… I guess people who have always had their limbs and then all of a sudden become quad, that they lose hope because they don't know what to do with themselves. And you think yourself as to be useless, but you're not. You're not. There are other ways to be useful in life. And you just have to find your way. It's going to be much more difficult for sure, but there are many ways to be useful in life. So, a life is not to be useless, but try not to be useless, I guess.
We have come here to experience life,
Mm-hmm.
not about how to put this to use. This is not a work donkey.
Well, kinda. I mean, we use our arms to do work donkey stuff and our feet to do work donkey stuff, our mouth to do work donkey stuff and eyes too.
I'm trying to understand this issue about knowing. So, where we clearly have overlap in the way we go about.
Okay, I'm gonna pause it right here. I'm actually doing a little bit better than last time, so we're gonna go with understanding about knowing for the next video. Well, I'm gonna pause right here, guys. Thanks for watching. If you like my content, please consider subscribing. Thumbs up, thumbs down below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next vid.